like a daddy Mac. Dan's 30 years got our way, trading life and markets every day. Rusty's chained to the mines, digging deep day by day. But when Option Omega releases new features, he's free to come out and play. Option Omega, you're trading home, where every move makes you feel less alone.
We let Rusty out of our own little Furdo for the day.
Happy Friday, Rusty.
Our own little
Thank you,
Furdo
guys.
bunker. And
Furdo. Oh, I was like, what does that term mean? Now I got it.
yeah.
Too soon. Too soon, Troy. Too soon.
Anyway, speaking of happy days, this is a happy day, fellas. Glad to have the full crew back again.
That's right.
Matt and I went on a journey yesterday. Rob and Maria. A lot of people like that. You go back and watch it. They were a hoot and very knowledgeable, and we're going to definitely have them back again. Matt, what was your favorite takeaway from Rob and Maria yesterday?
I will just say that to let everybody behind the scenes a little bit, I just sent him a GIF of the most interesting man in the world. And that was fascinating. And I feel like we could have gone for 8 hours. So loved having them. A lot of perspective of things that I think people would love to hear about. So, yeah, it was great.
My friend, go ahead, Dan.
No, I was going to say, I mean, I listened to the first 30 minutes of it, and I got busy with something. I got to go back, get the last 10. But when I looked at it, when I was looking, it just seemed like I was sitting around talking to some market maker or hearing a market maker as far as with risk management and all. I mean, it was just the same, you switch the words, gambling. But I mean, he was like a market maker in the sense that, he's a wholesaler. He was he didn't care if it, just like market making, they don't care if the market goes up or down. From the market making function, you're buying on the bid, you're selling on the ask, you're making, the goal is if there's enough liquidity, you're making the difference. And what Rob and Marie were talking about is they're making, or Rob, when he was doing if I understood it correctly, when he was doing the bookie, you're making the spread. He's making the 3% in the middle. And someone said, and the other thing I remember, do you pick like certain games for gambling? He said, no, I bet on all of them. Well, yeah. And it's kind of similar, in the pit where everybody would go to, you wanted the busiest crowd, right? You wanted the most option volume. It didn't matter what because technically you can buy in the bid and sell on the ask. Now in reality, in the options world, the market makers would love to go home with no inventory, buy it at 1, sell it at 1.02, 2,000 times in a day and go home. But unfortunately, they go home with inventory. And a lot of times it's inventory they don't want, whether it's long Vega or short Vega or whatever they're stuck with. So they're really like a chop. What's it called? Like a chop shop. What is it where people will steal cars and they'll chop up the parts? Well, that's what you're doing as a market maker. You're just chopping up the parts you don't like and redistributing it. But, when you look at, interesting, tell me if I'm wrong, you think of a gambler or someone who's gambles and you think, oh, they love risk. Well, the more you hear Rob, he's not risk averse, but he doesn't want the risk. He just wants to take a little bit, which is classic market maker. So it's like, you could have had his whole discussion, change the words. It was very, very similar to, he's a very good risk manager, right? Understands the whole concept. Yeah. Has applied it his whole life with the gambling. Interesting. Look, the only thing I'll say about Rob that didn't resemble the market makers, I've never seen a market maker that well dressed.
Mm.
If you saw market makers come in the pit in the morning, you'd think they were like either living on the street or out all night, usually the latter one, more than anything. And they would have, for a while, real quick, for a while in the pits, we didn't have ties for a while. So one time some congressmen were coming down from Washington. So the CBOE said, okay, we're going to force you guys to all wear ties, right? To try to, like Dirty Dozen, we're going to make them look better for appearances. And so people started wearing ties every day. But the thing is, now you get in trading, it's lucky ties, or this tie has brought me success. So you'd have ties that nobody's ever washed because that would hurt the karma or whatever with the tie, and they would smell and everything. So finally, the next time the congressman came a year later, they said, you know what? This experiment isn't working with you guys. We're going back to no ties because you guys are not changing. That you look horrible. You look hideous. So anyways, I appreciate.
As someone who's dressed as someone who looks homeless for a long time.
It's true.
It's true what I'm saying.
That's why I hired you originally. Their last company. I felt pity on you. I thought this is a good charitable act.
Well, and the fact that I
just the money.
The fact that I just wanted bread rather than a paycheck, is helpful.
That helps.
So,
that helps.
Yeah.
We had a lot of stale bread.
Yeah. But I can attest that a tie isn't going to help that situation. Yeah. You add a tie to what I was wearing, it's not going to help.
It wouldn't have helped.
No. My favorite thing about yesterday was, Rob said something, and I have a dear friend, Dan knows him. Shout out Seth. He's one of the boys from Options with the Boys. He's a coach. Coach loves to gamble. Coach is a bit of a gambler. And he listened to the show yesterday, and his favorite quote was from Rob, "I've always loved gambling and have been addicted to it since I was a child." That was his favorite quote.
Yeah, he was talking about making bets for his family and stuff, like as a kid. I was like, wow, this is a wild world, Wild West.
It's like if you look at like in the draft that we just had, the NBA draft, not switching topics, but the kid who got drafted 4th, Ron Knuppel, did I butcher his name? But they're saying he came from this huge basketball fan. Everybody was involved in it. Well, it's like Rob, he grew up and was nurtured in this family where he was in high school. He was already doing math.
Part of the action.
Yeah, he was part of the action. So it's like this was just another way. And he said, what I also liked, the last comment was, he's fascinated. What he liked about options is it's not like there's two things you can do. He just said it. Didn't he say something like he never runs out? There's so many things.
Well, that was the thing that was super interesting, is that he had moved from gambling because you get more occurrences.
You get trading. More. You can gamble more.
Yeah, you get more occurrences, and that the only limit's your bankroll.
Yeah,
I mean, you can literally trade 50 million times a day if you wanted to.
But what's the commonality here?
Yeah,
is what I realized. My biggest takeaway was that, Dan, you said he doesn't love risk, right? And these people don't love risk; they love probabilities. That's what I realized. They love math and they love probabilities. These are probabilistic thinkers. Like whether you're a market maker or Rob and Maria, or hopefully us. And this is where I think about Taleb in his books about fooled by randomness and all those other things, is helping you think probabilistically with all this stuff, with all these trades, right? And that goes into like back testing, which then goes into automation or trading, everything else. It's if you can think probabilistically, you have a huge edge, right? That means cutting out the emotion, if at all possible. Anyway, so that was my big takeaway. I was listening, like, what he's done this. We're talking about he was raised by people who were, I can't remember who said, his dad or granddad or someone who was in probabilities and working with Einstein. So he had that huge advantage to be growing up with people who were probably pretty unemotional about big, like lots of numbers in math and probabilities, and it carried forward to him.
And he touched on the most important thing, at least early in the thing to me, size, how he addressed size. I forget his calculation, something divided, but it made great sense. And basically, if you narrow it down, to me, he was saying, if you're uncomfortable, you gotta you're playing, you should be playing with a small enough number that if you lose, it's like in, people who will do like earnings plays, right? Well, earnings plays is kind of a shot, right? I mean, I get it. People will drape high volatility around it, but to me, it's much more difficult in the high volatility around earnings versus the high volatility around like SPX or something, because I think that you could take advantage of that better. The high volatility around earnings, problem is you don't know where it's going to open. You can't adjust. So if your size is too big, you're clipped, right? And I think he addressed that very important. And I think that's where, to me, that's the only reason when you think about, when I think of students over the years and I think of why they stopped trading, probably 99% the number one reason why they stopped trading is their first year or two, they had too big of a loser compared to their winner. And that could have been, it's not like, oh, could we have ever corrected it? Yeah, if you would have stayed small, the losers wouldn't have bothered you until you really understood what was going on. But it's the same story every time. I went from trading $2,000 to 50 grand, and then the market knew I went to 50 grand, and I lost 100 grand. And that, and now they've built this hole that is, a little more difficult to get out of. Anyways,
it's one of those things where, I've read Mark Spitznagel, the Tao of Capital. There's so many different books that speak to it. The idea of saying you have to get used to losing small amounts of money and being completely okay with that. It's actually the most, in my mind, especially I've been trading for 10 years now, that to me is the most important thing. Is like you have to be able to just be completely okay with losing small amounts of money.
Yeah.
Because you think about if you're not okay with it, what's going to happen? Well, you're going to lose a lot of money.
That's right.
That's the flip. Because if you can't lose a little bit of money, you're going to let things ride that they shouldn't ride. You're going to get super emotional, and you are going to actually, and it's going to affect your winners too, because as soon as you're in the green on any trade, you're going to freak out and take profit too soon instead of letting it ride because you're so emotional.
Yeah.
And so Tom says he feels personally attacked by Dan for what he said. So
what did I say, Tom? What I hope I didn't say anything, Tom.
Probably something about losing money and being emotionally stable. Shout out, Tom.
Oh,
got him.
Oh, that's pretty good. It comes back to goals, though, right? It comes back to the goal of everything. Your goal shouldn't be to have winning trades, right? I mean, your goal should be to have positive expectancy and a good system, which includes like good risk management, proper sizing, all of that. And so you could have a trade that wins 10% of the time, but if the winners are 20 times the losers, it's positive expectancy,
That's right.
And so I actually think it's kind of helpful to have some trades. I know a lot of people like those trades with really high win rates, 90% of the time and this and that, but I think you get kind of lulled into complacency with that because it gets real quick to where you're not used to losing. And then when you stare a big loser in the face, exactly what Rob was talking about, right? He's like, it'll mean revert. It can't keep going. It can't keep going. You'll tell yourself, it can't keep going. I did this, right? I mean, it was years ago. I was trading credit spreads and I was like, it's going to mean revert. This is a stupid day, a stupid market. It's nonsense. There's no reason it's tanking today. Nothing happened. There was no news, and then you're staring a giant loss in the face. I remember sitting out on my brick patio in the back after I got out of the position being like, what was my goal? Why did I do that? Why did I do that?
Yeah.
I wasn't used to losing. Right. And my goals were not in the right place. I wanted to win. And it's like, you have to get past that,
Yeah.
That's exactly right. Listen, when I first started trading, like I'm not a professional trader. When I started trading for money, for income, I bought have you ever seen the quarterbacks, their play call? They have that wrist thing that they have their play.
The Velcro thing.
I love that. That's great.
Yeah, I bought that to wear during the day for my 0-day trades.
That.
Are you serious?
Oh my goodness. What?
And I would wear it all day to try to get myself into the mindset. But then my wife said,
Your arm smells.
Yeah,
my arm smells, and I'm losing money, and I'm not a quarterback, and this is really sad. She would say things like, "This is really sad right now. I feel down watching you," things like that. So
Really? Did she actually say that? Oh,
no,
okay.
no. Shout out to my wonderful wife. She was very encouraging, being like, "Baby, listen, if you need to wear your little quarterback thing to be able to trade well, you put that little quarterback thing on." So anyway,
Troy, did you have the Brady jersey on at the same time or no?
Oh no! We can't do this.
Oh, you don't like Brady?
Hey, no, listen. Let's not. Listen. You were all in on his little water diet or whatever when he was like, if you just drink water, you can kill cancer. Whatever.
It's a great diet.
Get out of here.
Is that a Brady thing? Oh yeah, he was big in the.
Yeah, he did that TB12 non-garbage.
I bought the TB12 book and brought it into work,
and I think I set it on fire and threw it at your face.
It was very enjoyable.
Yeah. Can I confess real quick? When I was
Patriots,
much older than you guys, when I was younger, watching wrestling, and they'd have people like, I watched it religiously, Dick the Bruiser, the Crusher, and these guys. And I remember screaming at home watching Vern Gagne, because or Moose Cholak, one of those two was selling Dynapower. It's this powder drink, and you could be like me, you could have the muscles. And I'm looking at my dad, I'm like, please, for my birthday, can I have like 3 big things of Dynapower? It was the worst tasting thing. I think I took one thing out of it, but it was like, this will change your life. I'm sure Tom Brady's much more, sophisticated than the pro wrestler.
It wasn't. It was less sophisticated.
Less sophisticated than the pro wrestler.
Listen, so this is a Friday show. Saturday nights at my house when I was a kid, I had a large stuffed animal, a couple of them, and we would watch. It was early 90s, so we had Ric Flair. We had Hulk Hogan. We had Sting.
Andre the Giant.
Before he was Dark Sting, when he was just Happy Sting.
Oh yeah.
Andre. It was a golden age of wrestling.
Yes.
It was the innocent golden age of wrestling, because people say the golden age of wrestling was Stone Cold and all that stuff, but it was an innocent golden age of wrestling. And again, I still do that routine with the stuffed animals. I still love it. I'll watch those old shows. And one day we're going to get, this is way off topic. One day we're going to get into a thing about, have you guys noticed how people our age can't let things go and everything's so nostalgic all the time? And people just want to worship nostalgia.
It's because we're on the other side of the glory days. It's because the 80s, everyone knows we were beating the commies. Like everything was good, right? Life was good. I mean, those haircuts you had, I had hair, first of all, which was awesome in and of itself. And second of all, I remember the racing stripes that went all the way down in the back. Like, there's never been an age like that. Yeah. I mean, you had, you had the Goonies and E.T., and I mean, it was just, and then in the 90s, you had Jurassic Park. There's a reason nostalgia exists.
You know what I love about Rambo?
Everything?
But let me explain Rambo. Here's the plot of Rambo 2, if you've never seen it. Rambo, he is a victim of Vietnam. He has PTSD, but he's very good at what he does. And so they send him back to Vietnam in Rambo 2 to rescue some POWs. And in the process of that, he accidentally wins the Vietnam War, like 8 years later for America. And it's the one with the bows with the fire, which is one of the coolest things I'd ever seen in my life.
That was a class. That was an absolute class.
That's right. Yeah, about the fire bow.
So anyway, speaking of fire bow, we're going to review some trades real quick.
Let's do it.
And a couple things real quick before we review the trades. So we've been trading probably about the same thing for a couple weeks, 2 weeks maybe. We've been adding things as we go. So we're not done with the small account challenge. I've got a lot of good feedback from people saying they think the small account challenge has been so helpful. Hey, shout out Rob in the chat. He's here.
Shout out.
Yeah. Maria gets to talk more next time. That's fair. That's a fair thing, I think.
Make options great again. I want that.
Make options great again. That's right. So we're going to show this, but we're not done. And next week, I had the idea of I'm going to try next week to look at some stuff that wouldn't deal with pattern day trader, but are very, very small credit spreads. Because I know people like credit spreads. I know people, if you're new to trading and you're just not getting in all these communities, you see people talk about tranche trading and all these things. Well, your PT pattern day trade, PDT, is going to lead to PTSD if you.
Letters are tough.
That's right. If you try to do that. So we're going to work on that next week. That'll be the subject of it. I don't know if we'll find anything, but we try to be brave in this. So anyway, what do we got on right now? This, can you guys see the screen?
Yeah.
Okay. This is what's live right now. So these aren't closed. These are on. Okay. So we've got the 1428 intraday VIX down. And I'm going to show you that real quick. And then I'm going to share the trade real quick. Sorry, I'm all over the place here. I'm going to put this in the chat. There's the first one. I'm moving slow because I have people ask me all the time, can you send me the 18 tests that you discussed in the last 2 months? And it's hard. So today I'm just going to do it. I'm going to send you guys these as we go, if that makes sense. So that's that one, the 1428 on a day, on a move down, right? And here, 1 second, let me see. Yeah, do you guys remember that one? You like that one?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I'm having to filter.
By the way, next week, holiday week, 4th of July in the USA, stock market's closed. And let
Next
this
Friday.
bake your noodle. Let this bake your noodle. It's the end of June. The 6
Wild
months of
already.
the year.
Yeah. Halfway.
Yeah,
The year is half over.
What a wild
What?
year.
That's crazy. Okay, going back to this, sorry. So I'm going to, this is the DC on a 0.6 move up. I'm putting this in here as well. I'll get better at this, what I'm doing here. So sorry. Those are two similar trades, right? Like VIX moved down and we're going up in the market. You'll notice that they opened at different times, but they're the same type of trade, right? And I thought that was interesting, and they're both working pretty well so far. So we had another one of those open. I put that trade in there already. So you have that test. Then we have the Monday, Wednesday, 2-7. It's up 2.8% or a whopping $8, depending on how you want to look at it today. Sharing that one here. We have the VIX move down again. So those, I mean, we've been in an uptrend. You can see sometimes with the trades that are on, if you label them a certain way, what the market's doing, right? So you'll notice this week that we have quite a bit. 6.6 move up, VIX move down. VIX has been going down, Dan.
Yes.
And I don't like it.
But you called it Monday,
You
Troy.
could call it.
You called it Monday.
Yeah. It's a blessing and a curse to have this mind. So
That was great.
So and then the last one, shout out Steven in the chat. Steven's little credit spread. Steven V's little credit spread. Let me share this one real quick with you. 1 second, pilot to go. I don't know what you're asking, but I will come back to you here in a second. Okay. So overall, guys, been a fine week for DCs. We put a lot of DCs on. In the midst of the uptrend, it's still doing okay. Now we had a little bit of we had some losers Tuesday. So a lot of the Monday trades we put on Tuesday have closed for a loss, right? Is that what you guys saw in your DC trading?
Yes.
Yes.
Stuff I put on Friday, Monday, Tuesday, even Wednesday, right? Just haven't done great this week. not for me personally. Not the shorter term, the intra-week stuff. Yeah.
Is that what you're? Oh, the Monday, Wednesday. You could test it, Pilo. I think it just tests better on Mondays and Wednesdays. I think it's as simple as that.
Yeah, actually, Troy, we should talk about that while we're sharing tests. These tests, we say this every time, they're for you guys to take and make your own back tests. So these tests are not optimized. Would you say that, Troy? Like there are better back tests out than these back tests. And these back tests, we say this all the time, this is a sandbox. Take these back tests and make them make sense for you as the user. Because we're not trading your accounts. You're trading your accounts. So
not an auto trader. Yeah.
Yeah, this is not an auto trader. If you want an auto trader, you're in the wrong spot. There are plenty of places out there that want you to just follow their trades. That's not what we are at all.
Yeah.
This is
You're leading the horse to water, or
yeah.
however the thing goes. Is that what you do with horses? I've never. Anyway.
We're shooting. We're putting horses to bed instead.
And in this
Godfather.
heat, you're spraying the horses with water to cool them down.
We're mating the horses.
Take your
Oh,
horses.
no. This is
So anyway,
ride into town on your horses.
Yeah,
That's
So
what this is about.
Dan, I mean, all of these trades. This is the thing: is we try to improve on them. We've talked about putting giant slippage on all these tests before we share them. But I don't want to do that because it's annoying to me, basically, to have to go back in and undo that. But these tests, I mean, to everybody's point, these are just starting points, right, Dan? Like everything I've ever learned from you, it's never been like enter at 10:31. It's about learning, as you go. There might be a good pattern, but the best patterns are not that specific.
No, I think I've learned, just with the back testing tool, the world-class back testing tool, I have learned as far as some of the intricacies. Like I've tweaked some strategies, maybe make them 15% profit versus 10 or something like that, because the data would clearly show maybe this, which I would never notice, but didn't really look at things as specific as that. Troy, I want to make one comment on like DCs or different type of trades this week. Part of it is, I think, like you said, the trades put on Tuesday weren't so good. And I think, diversifying, to me, having trades on, diversification is a great word. Diversify when you put trades on. You're not putting all your trades on Monday at noon. A way to survive this week. And this week wasn't, you had about 140, 150 point SPX move up, right, since Monday morning. And I was talking to people yesterday and basically saying, get a life. Now, let me explain that. Because for 5 weeks, the market barely got out of bed, right? And they're like, happy. Most strategies worked pretty well. This week, you had a 150 point move up, a little bit uncomfortable. The VIX dropped 3 points, right? But even with DCs or other strategies, if you're diversifying the price, or Troy, you are still up, right? And my few trades said the same thing. You're up. Now, obviously, you got to be careful with the volatility if one stay in the middle, but it seems like the moves moved it more into the wings. Wouldn't you say? It moved it a little bit, which helped it. You could have had some, but that's why I like the short long ratio and stuff like that. It kind of protects you, right, Rusty and Matt and Troy, from some of that premium crunch like here. But I'll tell you what, if you said to me as of now, would you continue with some of these? I'd be like, give me a break. It's 16 volatility. I'm in. I'm all in on Long Vega. If we go to 15, I'll go underwater smiling, right? That's a horrible analogy, but I'll go underwater.
Where you go with that one?
Yeah, I have no idea what that means, but I'll go underwater smiling, and it's like now, but that's where it's like, I think scaling also a little bit, I like the volatility at 20, during the,
Yeah.
I like the VIX at 20. But I think at 16, you're just getting to the point, forget the whole, again, I'm a big news guy, but forget what's going on in the Middle East or whatever. If the Middle East wasn't going on, you start getting down to 16 volatility, 15 at least this year, which I still think this year, when it's said and done, is going to look more like 2022, where you have kind of a lower VIX. So I think, right now is not the time to, I hear students are like, I don't know if I want to be long Vega now. We could be, they were long Vega at 20, but now
Right.
it's 16 vol, I don't know if I want to be long Vega. We could go to 12. I say, again, can I just say that one more time? Smile as you go underwater. This is absolutely fine. And they're positive theta trade. Yeah. So anyways,
yeah, we're not talking about VIX 9. I mean,
yeah.
So
like 2017, you saw a little bit of that, right? Or
2017 in December, it got to, I remember, like 9 or 10 volatility.
Yeah.
But I remember that might be the best month I've ever seen.
Wow.
For calendars ever. I mean, it was 10. Wow. If I remember correctly, the market was going up at a fast pace, and then it eventually came down in January. But the volatilities were just, that was like the calendar month of the 10 VIX.
Interesting.
Well, yeah, I mean, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, to your point, there is a back tester where you can test a lot of these DCs, like the 2-7 on Monday, Wednesday, because you had SPXW options those 3 days, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, is testable in 2017 all the way to now. I have back tests for that, for things like the 2-4 or 5-7 or 1-3. You can trade and you can see they did fine, to your point, right? Like, so if you started getting nervous about the stuff, go back test it. Think probabilistically, to go back to the beginning of this talk. Don't get all nervous about this stuff and all. Like, go test it, see what it did in the various VIX regimes, and if you do find a pattern of sufficient sample size, then maybe you say, okay, maybe you put a lower VIX limit on it. But I certainly haven't found that with the DCs to Dan's point. They did fantastic at that time period.
That was muted. Well, I think the other part too with the testing is, as I've been trying to explain DCs to newer people, and it's really hard. I think, it's not as linear as you think, where it's like VIX 8, there's no vol, VIX 30, there's no vol. I mean, you're trading a front month and a back, and it's how they relate to each other is whether that's going to win or lose. It has nothing to, it does actually have to do with the VIX environment, but it's not that linear, and so each trade is going to perform completely different,
When it's even like you said, Troy, Matt and Rusty, like even if people compare, you do a 2-5 or a very short term, even the skews. I mean, you can get, getting positive skews, meaning your shorts are higher vol than your longs. It's dime a dozen when you're dealing with 2-5s, 2-7. But when you get, you start getting out to 15 days, 16 days, it's more rare, right? Just because of the way, generally we're going up in the market, and what's the word? Contango? Is that the word?
Yes.
The contango. And with the contango, when you start doing calendars 15 days out, 21 days out for your short, you don't get many positive skews unless the market just gets hammered. So it doesn't, each period, it doesn't mean, well, I should do shorter term for the skew. No, you should do shorter term for different reasons. Not the skew isn't the reason. The skew is just kind of like, it is what it is. People walk this way in Boston. They walk this way in Chicago. It is what it is, right? And the fact that when you do 21-day calendars or something like that, maybe again, diversifying duration, you're not going to find more positive skews there. In most situations, like if you sell a 21-day option and you buy a 28-day, you're not going to find many positive skews. It's just the way it is. But sometimes people get caught up in this, you can't compare skews overall time frames. You agree? I mean, they're just
100%.
unique. When you
Agreed.
do the 2 and 5 day double calendars, that's a different world. If you're starting to
Completely.
compare that with 21 day stuff, it's a different world. It's like
Very different.
Pluto and Earth. I mean,
That's exactly right. And you think about, I mean, one easy way to think about that is you're doing a 1-2, okay? Shout out the 1-2s, one of the greatest trades we ever had that lasted about 6 months of our lives. But
It was the best 10 minutes of
That
your
was
life.
crazy.
Though.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It was so fun.
the best 10 minutes of our life.
What they would
I,
do, it was crazy because the longs would hold their value, but they would kill the shorts in the end of the day. And so that 1 DT at the very end of the day, the market maker, they would kill it.
Yeah.
And so you would get like 5-10% in like 10 minutes. So
Yeah.
It
anyway,
was wild.
but
until they
you know,
figured it out.
Yeah.
so what is the event? What is the event that's holding premium in that long strike? Well, you've got like anything. I mean, you had 2 days, and so if there's nothing on the books in a market where VIX is going down, 2 days are going to get crushed just like 1 days a lot of times. Now you do that with like a 728. Well, suddenly there's a lot more reasons for that 28 to hold, some skew in it, some vega in it, some juice in it, than that 7 day. And so I think personally, I mean, it's not financial advice, obviously, but I think low vol environments, I like to just spread those DC, the time out more. You want more vega, you want more theta. And so that's my theory.
Especially when the VIX is, especially now, when the vols are really crushed, you could make an argument. You want more room between the long and the shorts on some of your stuff, right?
That's
because
right. Yeah.
you have less volatility risk at 16 on a 728 than you do, when VIX is 22. It could be, as Mr. T would say, pain, right?
That's
Is he
right.
still around, Mr. T?
Oh, I hope so.
I hope so. If not, we've missed a day.
He
of
is. He is.
Yeah.
Is he still around?
One of the greatest movie quotes of all time. Say, what's your prediction for the fight? My prediction? Pain.
Oh yeah, that was
That's
Mr. T. Mr.
right.
T is
That's right.
73. He looks.
Love it. Clubber
He
Lang.
looks 73.
he looks 73. He looks
Yeah.
73.
Beat Rocky Balboa so bad that he had to completely change the way he fights. That's that's a testament to Mr. T.
That's right.
Anyway,
Yeah.
Listen, guys. Well, don't even get me started on Rocky 4. We'll save that for next week.
What about Creed? Is Creed part of the universe, Troy? Creed 2. Is there a Creed 3? Creed 7.
There's a Creed 3. My kids get into this stuff all the time. Here's what I love about Rocky series. I'll be close with this. Just give me 1 minute, okay? This is important. Rocky 1, when my wife and I were dating, Rocky 1, what you don't realize, as a kid, you hate it because it's like grimy looking and very 70s vibes.
Yeah.
And it's slow. But as you get older, what you realize is that movie won the Oscar, like for drama. That was a dramatic, award-winning movie when it came out. That
serious. Serious.
And it will absolutely wreck you emotionally if you let it. It will. If you watch Rocky right now and you don't at least at some point think like, I want to be a better person, I want to try harder, something is broken inside.
Especially when he yells, Adrian. How does he do
That's
that?
right. That's right. And he has, there's two, we don't have time for it, but there's two things. When Mickey wants to train him and Rocky gets mad and he's like, you want to train me now? Like you wouldn't even, you thought I was a bum 10 minutes ago. And he yells at Mickey and Mickey walks out and he's walking home. And then the piano music kicks in.
Oh,
Rocky like apologizes to him. But here's the beauty of it. It never shows him. It shows him apologizing, but doesn't say what he says. I mean, that guts me every time. It just guts me. If you've ever yelled at your mom or dad or anybody that you love that's older than you and instantly regretted it, it will crush you. But then Rocky 2 is fine because the ambulance scene is baller. That's about all I have for Rocky 2. Rocky 3 is Clubber Lang. It's peak 80s. But then you think it's peak 80s, but then they introduce the USSR into Rocky 4.
That was awesome. Yeah, well,
And then it is peak 80s.
Then it really is peak 80s.
That's
So
right.
anyway, we're not going to address Rocky 5 today, but we'll continue later next week. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, listen, have a great trading day. I don't think, is there any news today? Any more bombings?
Isn't that PCE before the opening, I think?
I think
Is
it
it-
already PC already hit, and
Are we going to
was-
hit all-time highs today?
It
Is that what's
was a
going on?
little bit hotter, right? It
Mm.
was
Doesn't matter.
forecast to 0.1, and we're at 0.2, and we're probably still going to hit all-time highs.
Yeah.
There's consumer sentiment revisions at
There's nothing else that's
10
worth the
a.m.
darn. No.
What's the all-time high right now in SPX?
The close?
61.47. It was coming into yesterday. What is it? Probably
Yeah.
hit
We're
that.
close.
Yeah.
We are.
Or
really-
we're going to open above that.
Yeah,
I
we will.
believe.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah, the market right now is saying basically to your put, if you have a long put anywhere, it's saying if it dies, it dies.
Yeah.
That's right.
Today, Troy, for volatility enthusiasts, will VIX hit the high 15s today? That's
Ooh.
kind of what I'm. Can it do it today? Can it?
It could.
Yeah.
It's if you would have told me, listen, if you would have told me April 1st, or actually April 8th, if you would have told me April 8th that by end of June we'd be opening above all-time highs, I'd be rich. That'd be it.
You're right. That's the tweet. That's the story.
Anyway, all right, guys. Listen, have a great trading day. We will talk to you soon. And Tom, shout out. Pre-market doesn't count. If you've ever studied market profile, it's got to hold during the office hours, the retail
Cash open
cash
only.
hours. Yeah,
That's
but if to the puts, to my VIX calls, if they die, they die.